to inflict harm upon herself?
Yes.
Would you tell us what that occasion was?
Years ago, Blair attempted suicide.
And is it true that she would have succeeded in this attempt had it not been for your intervention?
Mine and Max Holden's, yes.
Mr. Roberts, have you made provisions for your children in the event you and your former wife, Tina Roberts, should die before CJ and Sarah reach legal age?
Yes, they would be placed in the care of Tina's sister, Vicky Carpenter.
Who is actually your wife's half-sister, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
But Tina has a full brother, does she not?
That's correct.
And that brother is the plaintiff in this case, Mr. Todd Manning, is he not?
Yes, he is.
And did you and your former wife ever consider Todd as legal guardian of your children?
No. No, we did not.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. No further questions, Your Honor?
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. You may step down. This court will take a 5-minute recess.
Are you all right?
How could Todd's attorney bring up the rape? What's he gonna do when I get up there?
Court is about to reconvene.
Marty, I'm so sorry you got dragged into all of this. I owe you one. Don't feel you have to pull any punches when it comes to cross-examining Marty Saybrook. As far as I'm concerned, you can run her over with a Mack truck.
All rise.
Be seated, please. Mr. Freeman, your next witness, please.
We call Margaret Saybrook.
The truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name and address.
Margaret Saybrook, 8 Mill Road.
You may be seated. Mr. Freeman, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, I didn't know that Marty was testifying.
Well, Margaret didn't know either until she was subpoenaed. She's not too happy about it.
Well, what is Todd, an idiot? He thinks the woman he raped is going to help him get custody of his child.
Will the gentleman in the aisle please turn and face this court? What is your name, sir?
Kevin Buchanan, Your Honor.
Mr. Buchanan, you will sit down and be silent or leave. And I only warn people once.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Freeman.
Let's not mince words, shall we? After all, it's a matter of public record. Miss Saybrook, my client, Todd Manning, raped you, did he not?
Yes, he did.
What do you mean you may know something about where Antonio Vega's hiding?
One of our street guys.
Well, I think anyone here in this room would understand the terrible rage you must have felt toward Mr. Manning. After all, an attack of this kind, a rape, whether or not you were drunk, whether or not he was drunk.
No, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Of course. In your eyes, he must have been a complete monster. And yet, a little more than a year later, he saved your life, did he not?
Yes.
And the lives of the 2 children who were riding in the car with you?
Yes.
And if the pardon issued by the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is any guide, Mr. Manning knew that if he stayed with you to save your life, he'd be recaptured and sent back to prison. And yet, he stayed anyway, did he not?
Yes.
Did you, at that time, perhaps, see him in a different light? A different man, so to speak, than the one who had raped you?
What Mr. Manning did took courage.
And I was very grateful.
But you didn't forgive him for the rape.
I have tried to forgive him for that.
And yet there came a time when Mr. Manning was unjustly accused of rape. In fact, risked his life to capture the real rapist. Was badly wounded and needed blood for an emergency transfusion. Isn't that true?
Yes.
You and he share the same rather unusual blood type, do you not?
Yes.
And did you give him your blood?
Yes.
So you saved the life of your rapist?
Yes.
Why?
One Life to Live, brought to you by Bounty, the quilted quicker picker-upper.
I gave Mr. Manning blood because he was a human being in need of blood.
So at that time you thought of him as a human being and not as a rapist?
Your Honor, there has to be a limit to this.
I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor. Miss Saybrook, what I'm trying to get to is this. When you gave him your blood to save his life, just as he had given up his freedom to save yours, didn't you feel that Mr. Manning had done something to earn your respect? That he'd changed, and now he merited the saving of his life?
I never said that Mr. Manning hadn't done things to try and change. He tried.
To turn his life around?
I suppose you could say that.
Would you tell us who Paloma Alvarez was?
She was a 9-year-old little girl born infected with the HIV virus. I came to know her while working at the hospital.
In fact, you were quite moved by her plight, were you not? You cared for her, you spent time with her, you bought her gifts, showed her love?
She had no one. Her mother had already died. Her aunt took over, but she had to work all the time, so... Yes, I loved Paloma.
And in her final weeks, you read her a book about Ireland, did you not? And in that book, there appeared a magical horse figure known as a puka.
Yes.
And Paloma wanted one, didn't she?
Yes.
Would you tell us how you got that puka for her?
I had to go to Ireland on some estate business, so I bought it for her.
Oh, you just flew over there and then you flew back and you gave it to her?
No. While I was still in Ireland, Mr. Manning called me to inform me that Paloma was dying and that she probably wouldn't make it through the night. I wouldn't have been able to get home in time on commercial flight, so Mr. Manning flew over on his private jet, took a helicopter to the island where I was, and I took his jet back home.
My goodness. He did all of that for a little girl who was not his own daughter. And then to get so involved with you, Miss Saybrook, a woman who he knew would never forgive him for what he had done to her. That's rather extraordinary, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I suppose you could say that.
In fact, Todd is very good with children, isn't he?
I guess so.
And indeed, this action he took, flying to Ireland to help you, came at a very significant time in his life, did it not?
Yes. He flew to Ireland the day after his wedding.
Gave up his honeymoon to help you. And while in Ireland, there came a time when you asked for another favor, didn't there?
Yes.
And he did that favor for you, didn't he?
Yes.
And in fact, because he did it, he was shot in the back several times, his body put in a car, and pushed off a cliff. He was lucky to recover at all, and when he did, he had lost a year of his life. So let me see if I have all this straight. He saved your life. You gave him blood to save his. He gave up his honeymoon to fly to Ireland to help you help a dying child, and then nearly dies himself doing one last favor for you. Wouldn't you say that shows a man who has changed, one who is quite different from the man who attacked you?
I guess he's changed.
Thank you. Oh, one last thing. The little girl, Paloma. Did you get back in time with her magical horse from Ireland?
Yes, I did. She died holding on to it.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Richardson, would you like to inquire about anything you deem relevant?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Miss Saybrook,